Welcome back to
The Mocitorium.
the best place for tips, tricks, and modifications to your official and custom CCBS creations. In our last installment of the Mocitorium, we covered the first half of sorting and organizing Lego CCBS parts. We left off with each and every part divided up into generalized categories to prepare for storage. Rather than taking you through the tedious process of putting all of those parts away, I've gone ahead and completed that process off camera. Instead, we will be continuing our work towards a systematic and productive build space, with a major focus on how to store and categorize your parts. First, let's start off with some general steps for storage, and then I will give you a complete tour of my parts collection and how I like to store things.
Step 1. Home sweet home.
You'll want to start off by picking a place for organization very close to where you typically do your building. Having a perfectly organized collection of parts is almost irrelevant if you have to travel down a flight of stairs every time you need an axle pin. So try to make a space where you plan to build and make sure there's enough room to spread out when building. Don't forget to add your own unique touches to make it your own.
Step 2. You be you.
As stated in part 1, you want to sort your parts in a way that is intuitive and convenient to your building style. My personal preference is to sort parts by size and shape as opposed to color. The reason for this is that it is easier to visually distinguish color among a uniform size of parts, versus looking for one particular piece in a bin full of red parts.
Step 3. Minimum security.
Be sure that your preferred organization system does not hinder your ability to build, as that would defeat the whole purpose of the process. For example, make sure you're still able to quickly gain access to parts without much struggle. Having a Sterilite drawer with closed lid containers inside, each of which containing Ziplocs full of neatly organized parts, may sound good in theory, but in practice that would be a nightmare to try to get each part out and then to close up all those containers at the end. For me, I use 2 layers of containment. The first is a drawer system that can be easily opened and closed. The second is an open top tray that can easily be removed from the drawer and placed upon my desk. I find this method works very well for fast building.
Step 4. Cannot divide by 0.
Be realistic with your sorting needs and don't oversort your parts. Your organization system should be based upon your current collection of parts. It would be silly to divide out armor shells by size and color if you only have a small handful of armor shells in total. Put all those armor shells in one bin, and as you require a greater quantity and diversity of armor shells, you can divide them out further. In short, Lego part sorting is a very adaptive process. What may work for you now won't necessarily work a year from now as your collection expands. A good indicator that it is time to expand your sorting is when a drawer or bin becomes too overflown with parts. That is a red flag that either it's time to build a mock with a ton of those parts, or to see if you can partition out that bin further.
Step 5. The reason this video is so long.
Lastly, as promised, I want to take you on a brief tour of my parts collection and how I put all of these steps into practice for my own Lego building area. Remember that I'm not recommending that you necessarily copy my setup exactly, but rather use it as an inspiration to develop your own system for organization. In part 1 of this video, I received a number of comments about what exact storage bins and drawers I use in my setup, so I've included a detailed outline in the description of this video for your convenience. We'll start off by looking at the containers and drawers on the top portion of my desk. The left and right towers on my desk house the majority of my bone pieces. Let's start with the left side. This is the beginning of my bone pieces. So at the very top here we have the smallest size bone piece, and like I said, I organized by size so we have every color in there. You can clearly see how it's easy to tell which one's which, and if you're looking for the trans red one, oh, there it is. Moving on, the next drawer has the next size of bone piece. That's the second shortest. The third drawer has these skeletal bone pieces, and these are the last of the bones that do not allow for the armor shell in the middle. Okay, the latter half of this first drawer has the upper limb piece in the smallest size. You'll notice in the organization I go upper limb, lower limb, upper limb, lower limb. So this is the smallest upper limb, and we have a whole bunch of them in a various array of colors. And now the lower limb version of that, and this is the most colorful of the drawers. We got a whole bunch of them, but even still, even with all of these different colors, I know what size I'm looking for. So if I need a olive green bone piece, I just go, oh, olive green. And things get a little weird at this point because I switch over to the tower on the other side, but we do have the next length upper limb piece with one pinhole here. Okay, so we're just on the other side of the tower now. So we have the lower limb bone piece with the extra pinhole in it. Continuing on, We have upper limb piece with 2 pinholes in it. Lower limb with 2 pinholes. Really only have 2 colors there. It's trans light blue or black. Getting towards the end here, we have the largest bone piece with the 4 pinholes. This is an upper limb bone piece. I only currently have 2 of them, but I have plenty of space to expand. And then similarly, we have the lower limb with 4 pinholes, and have, looks like 5 of those. My guess is 2 Star Wars sets and an Akita. And lastly, and semi-randomly, I have a small collection, not my entire collection, small collection of stud pieces for stud launchers, that kind of thing. Moving on to the main tower of my desk, it's got quite an arrangement of different parts. They're all parts that can fit in a small space, so it's not going to be large things like weapons or giant armor shells, that kind of thing. I did used to store everything in this one container, so it's pretty amazing to think of how far I've come from the time I started until now. So at the top here we have all axles. We start at the lowest end with the small size 2 axles, size 3, size 4, size 5, and everything greater than size 5. Unfortunately, that's a compromise I had to make. There's not enough drawer space to put one axle of size 7 in there, you know? So that's what I had to go with. The second level of the tower has pins mostly, but it's also a mix of pins and axles. So we start with the black pins here with also those frictionless gray pins. These are the half-length pins, including the little ones with the studs on the ends. Completely the opposite, we have the really long ones, the 3-length long pins. Here are the axle pin hybrids. And last we have the, I guess I'll pull it out. We have the also hybrid axle pins of length 3. So then we have axles with stoppers. These are all length 3 or shorter. Length 4 axles with stoppers exclusively. And then 5 and greater. These are other kind of linkages, ratchet pieces, that kind of thing. The mixel size ball joints. It's just kind of a mishmash of parts, but they all kind of fit together in one way or another. And lastly, my big container full of bushings. Okay, continuing our way further, we're on the 4th level here. We have some half-length Technic beams. Those are size 2s. The elusive size 3 half-length Technic beam. Never a shortage of size 4. These are size 5. And everything else. Getting further down into row 5. This is where things get a little messy, so we'll just kind of go through it. These are mishmash, mostly this style of piece. Only 2 types of pieces are accommodated in here. This little H-looking one, and the larger L-shaped one. Let's see if I can find one. And one of these. So they just all go together. They're big and bulky, so I like to keep them out of the way of this section, which they used to be a part of, which consists of the smaller looking version of that, as well as these pins with the axles at the end. Axle hole, rather. 2 parts are in here. This full-length pin Technic element, as well as this half version of it. This is all sorts of axle-based connections, the triangle shape, the 90-degree shape, as well as this piece here. I do also put the piece that essentially looks like this without that extra axle. I do have one. Huh. Okay, row 6, we have axle-to-axle connectors, including the lightsaber bits. Next we have these pieces, only the angle 1 versions, as well as the axle equivalent. These are the longer versions, all angles, including the straight angled ones. These are all pin-to-pin connectors. And then this is these hydraulic ram connections, as well as these are thrown in as well. Getting close to the end here, we have gears. We have the knob-based gears, and then the catch-all for all the gears. Not too happy with the way things are here. These are all they're kind of decorative elements, but mostly chains. These are all lightsaber bar styled pieces, including the lightsaber handle itself. Miscellaneous decorative elements that don't really fall into one category. And the final section has the smallest length barbs. The larger length barbs, including these kind of spider claw-like barbs, these which almost look like teeth, and bananas. Oop, dropped the banana. These are larger lightsaber connections, so we got wings, we have these little blades. Anything that would fit into a lightsaber bar that is large goes in there. opposite end of the spectrum, smaller lightsaber connection pieces. We have crystals, gems, flames, wings, and lastly, Exoforce arms as well as hands and some other kind of droid-like appendages. The bottom drawer is mostly a junk drawer. Has some random junk in it, stickers, these little piping pieces, just little bits of everything. And that's it for the top section of my desk. Occasionally you may see me reaching off camera for additional parts. That's because quite a bit of my parts are actually stored below this desk. So as you can see, there are two sets of storage containers, one on each side. The left tower contains mostly armor shells, armor attachments, and other things of that nature. The first drawer contains all size 3 armor shells in a variety of colors. The next drawer has all size 4 armor shells, and this is probably my largest collection of one size of armor shell. Things start to diversify a bit in this third drawer. There's quite a variety of parts to go through. On the far left here we have all size 5 armor shells. Kind of awkwardly we have size 6 armor shells here. I just do that to make sure I distinguish between the two and so they don't fall into each other's bins. Now we also have these Paul armor pieces. Similarly to the Paul pieces we have these multi-tool armor pieces. They also have the ball and socket joints on them. Here we have all of the shin guard pieces, mostly from the Star Wars series. I don't believe we've actually gotten any of these in the Bionicle series yet. On our far right, we have all the extra wide armor pieces. These are all extra wide ones. And then lastly, in the back, we have the new summer 2016 crystalline armor pieces, as well as this random 2014 Hero Factory chair that I just put here because it has a socket. Drawer number 4 is the last drawer to contain armor shells. We have basically all the larger armor shells. In this tiny bin here, we have the rib cage pieces. You can tell I have a ton of trans purple. Skull Basher was on sale locally. In this primary bin, we have basically every chest piece armor variety you can imagine. So we have the traditional one, the Hero Factory one that came out, the new Toa-sized chest piece that doesn't have any armor attachment points, and then we even have some Star Wars ones as well. I'm not too happy with this storage method. It's kind of hard to find pieces in it, but right now this is the best option for me, so I've stuck with it. At some point I would probably partition out all of these by category. And then you can see on your right here, I just have kind of just loosely in the container all the extra wide chest plates. But basically all these are black except one, and then I believe I have one with the stickers on it as well. Moving towards the bottom here, we start our collection of armor attachments. On the far left, we have the what was originally for villains, this kind of like hairy looking, pauldron-y, spiky armor attachment. I have them in both gold and gunmetal gray. And then here we have all the original 2015 armor attachments for Bionicle, the ones that are really kind of classic looking. All 3 colors. Obviously I'm really low on whites. It was kind of hard to get whites. The right half of this armor attachment drawer has a mess of parts, but they do have a system to them. This first section is all bladed pieces, so we have this style of blade as well as this style. Again, they still have the armor pins in there. On the right side, we have more blades. These are all the same kind, just in different colors. The middle section has the 2016 crystalline armor pieces, not the villain kind, but the hero kind, and I'm pretty impressed with the sheer quantity of these I have. This is almost to the point of overflowing now. This bin here is perhaps the weirdest bin of all. It's got basically every small armor attachment I have that I don't have enough of to classify in one category. So for example, we have everything from these Rocky bits to the old Hero Factory villain core, the hero cores, spiny bits, basically everything. Lastly, these back 2 drawers have what I kind of consider joint pieces. So these I classify as shoulder pieces. So we got basically 3 styles, this kind, and this one, which we've only really seen again in Star Wars. And then all of this container section is just this piece in different colors. Okay, the last drawer on this first section. So we continue with armor attachments. It just leads over into this section. On the far left, we have all the breastplate connections. All of them that I have are just in this one drawer. You can kind of tell what this is. This is my completely crazy overstock of dark red. For anything Stippling origin related, I have a plethora of these little fur pieces to use. Again, the right side is kind of a hodgepodge, but in general, it's armor pieces that aren't socket based. So in the first position, we have Vorok's armor. In the right section, we have these ice shields, I believe they were, from Hero Factory. In the middle here, we have all my Unity pieces that aren't currently in use. This section is completely out of place. It's obscure ball joint pieces. I just have it here because I had space here and had nowhere else to put it at the moment, so it's basically just these two pieces over and over again. In the back, I have some of these old Vorok hands. Again, it just kind of, this was the best place for it. And then for whatever reason, I have this wind-up motor in the final position. So that's the end of Tower 1 at the base of my collection. Moving to the top of Tower 2, we have all my masks and mask-related things. This is kind of a weird division system. I've gone for basically every 2015-2016 mask that does not have gold in it, every 2015-2016 mask that does have gold in it, with the exception of things here. These are all beast or creature related masks. So we have creatures, beasts, and skull spiders. And then this is kind of a mess, but it's a catch-all drawer for any non-2015-16 Bionicle mask or head. So this includes old Bionicle masks as well as Hero Factory masks. So this is the masks drawer. It's one of my favorites. Fun to look through. Sometimes hard to close though. So the next drawer here is the start of my what I call humanoid collection. Save for this part here. So we have hands and heads mostly. Guess we'll just start here anyways though. These are all clip-based claws. They're here because they fit in here, not necessarily for any other reason than that. Similarly, I have all my Vorok eyes in these containers. Again, just because they happen to fit in this section. Starting here, we have all the new, or I guess new old, Bionicle hands, the ones with 4 fingers. I keep them separate because I want to, and because they have the more brittle style of socket piece, so I prefer to use those where I can. Here we start our collection of heads. These are all either Glatorian heads or this kind of head. I don't know what the specific name for this head was. You can put in the comments if you'd like. Keep those together. Here we have all the 2015-16 Toa or Akotin, or however you want to say it, heads without the brain stocks. I keep the brain stocks separate. These are all just the silver variety. And then matching with that is all the brain stock pieces. And due to overflow here, I've also included the trans neon greenish yellow heads in this section. It can be kind of hard to see, but in the back we have Hero Factory heads. Oh, that's not supposed to be there. This goes here. Hero Factory heads. So we either have this kind. This was the Brain Attack head, or more recently I got, but older, this kind of head with the dual peg on top. Matching with those heads, I have all the visors here. I rarely use them, but I keep them since I have a good enough number. I keep them in their own section. And then obviously this massive behemoth here is just all my hands, all the 5-fingered hands I own. Just kind of have to flip through them and find the ones I'm looking for. Continuing our humanoid theme, we have the smelliest drawer of all. This is all feet. So basically all the feet I have are in this one drawer. These are kind of loose on the side. They're the robotic large feet. These are kind of hard to see, but these are all the smallest feet, so protector creature feet. All my black feet are here. All the non-black ones are here. That's just the division I chose since I have a lot of black pieces. No division here. These are all the larger feet. I just have so many that they take up 2 sections. This one is kind of a grab bag as well. I have the 2010 Hero Factory feet. as well as these old Bionicle claws. No reason, they're completely different styles, but they're just don't have enough to constitute an entire drawer or an entire section of a drawer for each of those. Similarly, I've got weird animalistic kind of feet here. So I have these hoof pieces, and then I also have these. These aren't actually even CCBS feet, but I had bought them. I had bought them to potentially make a small animal at some point. So those go there. And then in the very back, it's kind of hard to see and can be hard to reach, but there is all my big old boot feet. So keep those all together. Just grab those as needed. Drawer number 4 is the Technic Emporium, so it's all Technic beams as well as Technic panel pieces. I'm not going to go through these in detail, but they increase in size here, and then these are shape based, and then large ones, angled ones, and like I said, panel pieces. Drawer number 5 is also mostly Technic based, but it's the more useful Technic pieces. So we have gearbox here. In this area here, these are all just this one piece, 2 pins and then a 90-degree angle axle. Right next to it we have the smaller version of that, so 1 axle, 1 pin. Here we have this one, it's like a perpendicular Technic piece, also very useful. This one, these are kind of specialized pieces that I find I frequently need specifically, so when I need one of these highly specialized pieces, I go here. This includes this wondrous piece. I love this one. It's probably one of my favorite pieces ever made. It also includes this one, which is great for weapons and connecting a lot of axles together. I also include the Kylo Ren piece that came out recently. I consider that one of those highly specialized pieces. In the back we have all these paired pinhole pieces, so anything that looks kind of like this, what I call an owl piece. All my owl pieces are here. And then lastly we have this entire section consists of this piece. Let me get a better color for it. 3 long axle hole with a pinhole next to it. They're all that piece. And then what seems to be out of place but not necessarily is the start of my torsos. So I have the new waist articulated torso here. This drawer essentially is all the specialized torsos as well. So waist articulated torso. I also have the little baby torso, and I'm pretty positive I don't have any in here, but I also include the torso without the ball joint for the head. You saw those on some of the beasts this wave. And at the very base of this tower, we have a ball and socket Wonderland. So these are all the traditional torsos of every size. Anything that looks like this, including the extra wide ones with the extra ball joints here and here, they're all just thrown in there. To be perfectly honest, I don't use those all that much, so I don't really need that great of an organization system for them. This is one of the most important containers in my collection, and it includes all of the ball and socket based connections. So on the very bottom here, we have the Glatorian necks, I think that's the right name for them, as well as the crooked version of that. I keep those separate because you frequently will need one or the other. You can't kind of interchange these. Right above that we have the old Mata style hand. Well, they're not the old style, but symbolic of the old style, those socket pieces. Here we have anything that increases friction. So the vast majority of these pieces are these friction extenders. And then we also have these older style friction elements. In the very back we have these armor attachment Technic connectors with the ball joint in the middle. And then finally we have just pure good old ball joints. This is a mix of both the ones with the axle hole through them, as well as the ones that do not have the axle hole through, so they have the completely rounded off edge on one side. And that's it for everything underneath my desk, but that is not all my parts. Let's move over a little bit and look at my side collection. So there's 2 more containers of drawers left, and these are located just to the right of my main table for building. I would like to have them closer, but I don't have enough room right there. And these are also situated right below where I film in the studio, so this is below the studio. The first drawer here contains contains a wide variety of parts. They're mostly weapon-based. So here we have any kind of drill-like element, the quote-unquote star drills, as well as these traditional drills, and a rock for fun as well. These are all ballistic-based weapons, so anything ballistic-based as well as their ammunition. In the back here we have anything that's classified as a shield, whether literally a shield or not so literally a shield. And then lastly, what I consider to be elemental style blades, but not elemental crystal blades, if that makes sense. So all kinds of colored blades, including lightsaber blades as well. The most common item in here are these style of blades. The next container continues our theme of weapons, but they're more specialized. These here are kind of traditional blades, mostly in silver. On the opposite end, these are all crystalline blade pieces in every color you could ever want. I have a ton of these from just coming out this year. It's pretty cool. In the back, this container entirely, consists of this one axe element. I literally have that many of them that I have to have a whole container for them. And lastly, smaller bladed elements of variety. This is a catch-all container for any kind of blade that doesn't fit into any other category. This third drawer consists of kind of a mix of parts. The first half is kind of animalistic claw pieces. So we have the regular claws, as well as any of these curvy elements, both the Ben 10 tails and these almost antler-like versions. The back is completely weird. This is what I call my round container. It consists of everything round. Moving on to the right-sided drawer, we have larger elements. These are things that are too big to fit anywhere else. So wheels, the Onua shovels, and the trap pieces from 2016. This second drawer only has one really useful thing, and that's these winged elements. These are anything that would help with flight. So literal wings, as well as propellers and boomerangs, flight-based things. This also serves as kind of a overflow area, a bunch of pins in there, heads that I would never use for anything for the most part, so Chima heads, Star Wars heads, which I've started to keep these Star Wars heads in their packaging for storage so they don't get damaged. Also some more overflow. I've got a lot of extra claws. They made too many skull spiders. And then some cloth elements that I have yet to use. This final drawer is completely out of place, and it's literally just Lego sets, mostly small Lego sets that have never been built. So brand new boxes, poly bags, creator sets, even some friends stuff from my girlfriend. I just keep them in here so that at some point if I'm bored I have something to build. There is one more section just below these two drawer sets, and that consists of mostly old generation Bionicle parts that are not too well sorted. They're mostly there to hold on to repair old sets I get. I don't use them currently in most of my mocks, but occasionally I will pull a part or two if I absolutely need it or think of it. So that's basically everything I can say about organization. I truly hope that this somewhat dry video on organization has helped you in some way, either giving you inspiration to improve your current setup, or motivation to get all those parts off of the floor, or out of that giant bucket of parts. The information I presented here in this two-part series is the culmination of a lot of trial and error, and I'm still absolutely not done with my organization. I will always be on the lookout for ways to improve and upgrade my storage systems, and you should be too. If you liked this video, please feel free to show your support in the comments section, which can and should include suggestions for future Mocitorium videos. I appreciate all your feedback and support, and as always, thanks for watching.